Time. We think of it as a straight line, from past to present to future. But what if that line can bend, or even loop back on itself? Physicists call it retrocausality, the mind-bending possibility that the future might reach backward to shape the past. It's not just science fiction. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that events we haven't yet experienced could ripple backward, influencing outcomes we thought were already fixed. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and make a choice, but that choice somehow alters what happened yesterday. The moment you decide could echo into the past like a stone dropped into still water, rewriting what you believed to be unchangeable. From Einstein's theories of relativity to the strange results of quantum experiments, science keeps brushing against a disturbing question: is time truly a one-way street? Or is the arrow of time an illusion and reality is more like a web where every point is connected to every other, past and future entwined? If the future can rewrite the past, what does that mean for free will, memory, and cause and effect? Could déjà vu be more than a trick of the brain, a glitch in the timeline itself? Today, we'll step into a world where clocks don't just tick forward and discover what happens when time breaks. Chapter 1. The Fragile Arrow of Time. Time feels like the most certain thing in the universe. It ticks forward relentlessly, second by second, heartbeat by heartbeat, pulling us from birth to death, from sunrise to sunset. We wake, we act, we sleep, and the day is gone. It feels unbreakable, immutable. We call it the arrow of time. It's a simple metaphor. Time, like an arrow, only flies in one direction. You can't catch it midair and fling it back. What's done is done. The past is fixed, the present is fleeting, and the future is an empty page. Or at least, that's the story we tell ourselves. The comfort of linear time, our entire reality is built on this one-way arrow. We structure history as a straight line. We live as if each choice pushes us further from what has been and closer to what will be. Our laws, our moral systems, even our personal identities depend on the belief that the past is untouchable. When someone commits a crime, we punish them based on what they already did because we assume nothing in the future could reach back and erase that action. When we regret something, we feel trapped because we think there's no way to undo it. But what if this comfort is an illusion? What if the arrow isn't rigid steel, but fragile glass, and under certain conditions it can bend or even shatter? Cracks in the arrow. Modern physics has started whispering something strange. The laws of nature don't always care about our sense of before and after. At the microscopic level, in the bizarre realm of quantum mechanics, events don't seem to follow the tidy rules of past gives present gives future. In fact, some experiments suggest that the future might be able to influence the past. This is called retrocausality, the idea that causation might work both ways. Instead of a causing B, sometimes B might cause A, even if B happens later. For most of us, that sounds impossible. But for the universe, impossible is often just something you haven't understood yet. Entropy and the one-way street. If physics allows for time to be symmetrical, why do we experience it as moving in one direction? The answer lies in entropy, the measure of disorder in a system. In everyday life, things move from order to chaos. An egg breaks, but the pieces never leap back together. Ice melts, but the melted water doesn't spontaneously freeze into the same intricate shape. This increase in entropy is what gives us the sensation of time flowing. But entropy is a statistical law, not an absolute one. On a small enough scale, randomness could reverse just for a moment. And in that moment, the arrow could flicker. The human obsession with changing the past. Long before physicists started talking about retrocausality, humans were already obsessed with the idea that the past could be changed. Myths are full of it: gods undoing tragedies, heroes traveling back to fix mistakes, cursed individuals trapped in endless loops until they get it right. Why? Because deep down, we've always suspected time might not be as simple as it looks. If you've ever wished you could go back and do things differently, you've felt this suspicion yourself. And if you've ever had a moment of déjà vu so strong it felt like you remembered the future, you've brushed against the edge of the idea. When the future bleeds through, sometimes these cracks in time show themselves not in labs but in human experiences, premonitions, prophetic dreams. Split-second choices that feel guided by something already known. Skeptics call them coincidence. But what if they are the faintest hints of a deeper truth that time isn't a straight arrow but a web of connections between all moments? In such a web, cause and effect might just be human labels for a much stranger dance. The question that changes everything: if the future can rewrite the past, even in subtle, quantum ways, what does that mean for us? Does free will survive in a world where tomorrow could decide yesterday? Does history become a shifting sea instead of a fixed stone? And if we could learn to harness this, would we be able to send messages backward, avert disasters, or rewrite entire lives? We are about to walk into the heart of this question, where physics, philosophy, and human longing collide. The arrow of time may not be what it seems, and if it can break, everything we know about reality will have to be rewritten. Because in the next chapter, we're going to step into the experiments that first shook the scientific world, the strange cases where the future might already be reaching back to us. Chapter 2: Retrocausality and Quantum Strangeness. If time were a perfectly straight road, quantum physics wouldn't exist. Because in the quantum realm, the realm of atoms, photons, and the tiniest particles in the universe, the rules we take for granted simply fall apart. Here, reality isn't a single track, it's a shimmering haze of possibilities. And in this haze, the future doesn't just wait for us, it participates. The experiment that shouldn't be possible. In 1978, physicist John Wheeler proposed a thought experiment, one so strange it sounded like science fiction. He called it the delayed choice experiment. Imagine you're sending a single photon, a particle of light, toward a device. Depending on how you set up the device, the photon will behave as either a particle or a wave. The weird part, in Wheeler's version, you decide after the photon has already passed the point where it should have made up its mind. And yet, your late decision still seems to determine how the photon behaved in the past. It's as if the photon is waiting, not in space, but in time, for your choice. The future sends a signal. Physicists have actually tested versions of Wheeler's idea, and the results hint at something wild. The present choice affects the past behavior. In other words, your action now could be influencing reality backward in time. Some call it retrocausality. Others say it's a sign that past and future are illusions and all moments coexist in a larger, timeless whole. Either way, it rattles the very foundations of cause and effect. Quantum erasers and hidden information. Things get stranger with the quantum eraser experiment. Here, a photon is split and its twin is sent far away. Depending on whether or not you erase certain information about the photon's path, even after it's been detected, the entire interference pattern changes. It's like the universe goes back and rewrites itself based on what you decide to know. Knowledge itself becomes a kind of time machine. What this means for us: if the future can touch the past at the quantum level, could it ripple upward into the world we live in? We are, after all, made of quantum particles. Our brains, our bodies, our choices, they're all built from this same strange fabric. Some researchers speculate that phenomena like intuition, premonitions, or even lucky coincidences might be echoes of retrocausal effects in our everyday lives. Perhaps we are constantly in a subtle conversation with the future, we just don't realize it. Breaking the arrow, keeping the story, but here's the catch: even if retrocausality is real, we may not be able to control it like in science fiction. It may work in ways that are more poetic than mechanical, shaping probabilities rather than directly rewriting events. Think of it like the wind in a forest. You can't order it to blow a specific leaf your way, but you can feel it brush against you, carrying the scent of something yet to come. Chapter 3: Time Loops, Paradoxes, and the Shape of Destiny. We've all heard the stories: the person who meets their future self in a dream, the ancient prophecy that fulfills itself, the strange déjà vu that feels like a cosmic hint. They're usually dismissed as coincidence or fantasy. But what if they're glimpses of a deeper truth, that time can fold back on itself? The grandfather paradox: imagine you step into a time machine, go back to the past, and accidentally prevent your grandparents from meeting. Logically, you could never be born, yet if you're never born, you could never travel back to prevent them from meeting in the first place. This is the grandfather paradox, one of the most famous puzzles in the philosophy of time travel. It's a loop that collapses under its own weight. And yet, some scientists and philosophers suggest that the universe may not allow such paradoxes to occur. Instead, reality might self-correct, forcing events to align in a way that maintains consistency. You might still travel back in time, but every action you take becomes part of the very history you came from. The closed time-like curve: in Einstein's theory of general relativity, space-time isn't a fixed stage, it's a flexible fabric. And in some solutions to his equations, that fabric can twist into a closed time-like curve, a path that loops back to the same point in space-time. If such curves exist, they could theoretically allow a traveler to journey into the past without breaking the laws of physics. But there's a catch: you'd be trapped in a self-consistent loop. Your actions would never change history. They are history. Predestination and the myth of choice: this idea leads to an unsettling possibility. If time is a loop, then everything you've done and will ever do is already woven into the fabric of reality. Your choices may feel free, but they're part of a predetermined sequence. To some, that sounds like a prison. To others, it's a comfort, a cosmic choreography where every step leads exactly where it must. The bootstrap paradox: one of the strangest time loop scenarios is the bootstrap paradox. Imagine you receive a mysterious book from a stranger. You study it, then years later, travel back in time and hand that same book to your younger self. Where did the book come from? It was never written, it simply exists in a loop, passed endlessly between past and future. The same could happen with information, music, even technology, ideas without origin, looping forever in the fabric of time. The shape of destiny: when we think about time, we often imagine a straight line or, at most, a branching tree. But maybe it's neither. Maybe time is a spiral, revisiting the same themes, the same turning points, but from different angles. And maybe our lives aren't random, they're part of an elegant pattern that only becomes visible when seen from outside time itself. Chapter 4: Consciousness as the Time Traveler. We tend to think of time travel as a technological feat, a machine humming with impossible energy flinging us into the past or future. But what if the real time machine is not made of metal, but of mind? The mind outside of time. Physics tells us the brain is an organ bound by biology, operating in the present moment. But consciousness, the experience of awareness, doesn't always seem so limited. We dream, and in the dream, a lifetime can pass in minutes. We remember, and the past floods back as if it's now. We imagine the future, and sometimes, inexplicably, those visions come true. It's as if the mind can slip free of the arrow of time, touching moments beyond the present. Precognition and prophecy. Throughout history, people have claimed to receive visions of the future, from ancient oracles to modern-day intuitives. Skeptics call it coincidence, but studies in parapsychology hint at something stranger: that humans might be capable of precognition, sensing events before they happen. If consciousness isn't bound by linear time, then perhaps we are all time travelers in small, quiet ways. Memory as a portal. Memory is usually thought of as a recording of the past, but what if it's a doorway? When we remember, we're not merely watching an old tape, we re-enter the moment. We can feel the air, hear the voices, taste the coffee we drank years ago. If we can step into the past and the theater of the mind, could we also step into the future the same way? Near-death experiences and timelessness. Many near-death experiencers report that time dissolves entirely. They describe seeing their entire life at once, as if all moments exist simultaneously. Some say they glimpse not only the past, but potential futures, branching like shimmering threads. If these accounts hold even a grain of truth, then our awareness might already live in a dimension where past, present, and future coexist. Meditation and altered states. Mystics and meditators have long claimed that deep states of stillness can open the mind to timeless awareness. In those states, time slows or vanishes. Moments stretch into eternity, and from that perspective, the distinction between before and after fades away. Perhaps the true skill of a time traveler is not to change events, but to see them all at once and act with a deeper wisdom. Chapter 5: When the Future Reaches Back. We're used to thinking of time as a one-way street. The past shapes the present, and the present shapes the future. But what if it's not so simple? What if the future, your future, is already shaping your life right now? Retrocausality, the physics that bends time. In quantum mechanics, there's a strange concept called retrocausality, the idea that events in the future can influence outcomes in the past. In certain quantum experiments, the way we measure particles now seems to determine what they were doing earlier. If the building blocks of reality don't strictly follow the arrow of time, why should we? Premonitions in everyday life. Some people report an odd déjà vu before big life events, a sense they've been here before or knew it would happen. Others describe making a choice without knowing why, only to discover later that it set them on a path that felt meant to be. Is this intuition, coincidence, or is your future self whispering to you through the thin wall of time? Dreams as messages from the future. Throughout history, dreams have been seen as omens. Abraham Lincoln famously dreamed of his own assassination. In 1912, several people claimed to have dreamed of a ship sinking in icy waters just days before the Titanic disaster. Skeptics dismiss such cases as selective memory. But if time is flexible, perhaps dreams are the mind's way of catching echoes from tomorrow. Decision points and timelines. Imagine standing at a crossroads in your life. From your perspective, the choice is ahead of you. But what if, from the view of your future self, the decision has already been made and that certainty is tugging you toward it like gravity? Your future might not be a distant destination. It might be the invisible hand guiding your steps right now. The butterfly effect in reverse. We know the butterfly effect, how small actions in the past can ripple into massive consequences in the future. But what if there's a reverse effect? What if the shape of your future is quietly reorganizing the events of your present so that you'll get there? That missed bus, that chance encounter, that sudden idea you couldn't explain. Maybe none of them were random. Chapter 6: The Eternal Now. When all moments exist at once. We live as though time is a flowing river carrying us from a fixed past toward an unknown future. But what if that's only how it feels from inside the current? What if the river isn't flowing at all and every moment, from the birth of the universe to the end of time, already exists? Block universe theory, the landscape of time. In modern physics, there's an idea called the block universe. Picture time not as a line, but as a vast four-dimensional block. In this block, every moment, your first breath, the invention of fire, the fall of future empires, is frozen in place like scenes in a cosmic film reel. From this perspective, nothing is truly happening, it's all already there. Past, present, and future aren't separate places, they're neighbors, existing side by side. The strange consequence, no real past or future. If the block universe is real, then there's no before or after, only a complete, unchanging whole. The moment you're reading these words exists eternally, just as the moment you were born, or the moment you will die, exists eternally. This doesn't mean you're trapped, it means change is an illusion of perspective, like walking through a painting, seeing one section at a time. Your consciousness as the traveler. Think of your awareness as the beam of a flashlight moving across a mural. The mural doesn't change, but wherever the light falls, that's where now feels like it is. Could this explain why memories feel like portals, why déjà vu feels like a skipped record, and why certain moments seem to stretch into forever? Time travel without moving. If all moments already exist, then time travel might not mean speeding forward or backward. It might mean shifting the focus of consciousness to a different point in the block. Perhaps the shamans, mystics, and people who claim to see the future aren't visiting it, they're just looking sideways. Chapter 7. The Death of Free Will. If the future already exists. If the block universe is real, if the past, present, and future are all set in stone, then every moment you will ever live is already written. Every decision you think you're making has already been made. Every choice, every twist of fate, every heartbreak, every victory, already part of the cosmic mural. It's unsettling, even terrifying, because it means that free will, as we normally understand it, might be nothing more than an illusion. The illusion of choice. Imagine standing at a fork in the road, believing you can choose left or right. From your point of view, it's a decision in progress. But in the block universe, both the road, your decision, and even the moment after you choose, all exist unchanging. You choose only in the sense that the scene of you making that choice is already built into the structure of reality. Predestination without a predestinator. This isn't fate in the old, mythic sense, no gods pulling puppet strings. It's more like reading a novel. The characters don't know what's written, but the author does. Except here, the author might be the laws of physics themselves. The paradox of awareness. Here's where it gets stranger. Even if your path is fixed, you still experience the feeling of choice. It's part of what makes you human, the sensation of steering, even if the road is already paved. And maybe that feeling isn't meaningless. Maybe it's the way consciousness navigates a predetermined map while still learning, evolving, and deepening in understanding. Does this mean nothing matters? Not necessarily. Even in a fixed universe, your experience is real. The joy, the pain, the love, the regrets, they're all part of the eternal tapestry. The fact that it's already written doesn't make it less vivid, only less random. Chapter 8. Remembering the Future, Precognition in a Block Universe. What if memory isn't only backward-facing? What if the mind is a two-way window replaying echoes from the past and pre-playing whispers from the future? If the block universe picture is right where every moment already exists, then the boundary between recall and premonition might be more about our point of view than about time itself. To us, the future feels closed because we haven't arrived there. But to the cosmic mural, your tomorrow is as present as your childhood. So perhaps consciousness, under certain conditions, tunes to a moment ahead the way a radio locks onto a distant station just before it clears. The felt sense of tomorrow. Everyone knows the strange tug of déjà vu, the eerie conviction that this moment has happened before. We typically chalk it up to a memory glitch, neural timing misfires, a sensation mislabeled as memory. But there's a deeper possibility. That déjà vu is the psyche brushing against the edge of the block, a brief overlap between where your awareness is and where it's about to be. Likewise, premonition often arrives in humble clothes, a nudge not to take a road, a name you haven't thought of in years that suddenly calls you and then calls you for real. Most of these episodes are ambiguous, easy to dismiss, but their phenomenology is consistent. A felt tilt in the present, as if the future leaned its weight onto now. Time-symmetric clues from physics without the hype. In classical life, causation runs forward. A cue ball hits, the other ball rolls. But at the deepest levels of physics, many equations are time-symmetric. They don't forbid influence backwards, they simply describe correlations that don't care which way we read the film. Experimental designs like delayed choice and quantum eraser studies show something unnerving. Our later measurement settings can seem to determine the earlier story a particle tells. Does that mean your Thursday decides your Tuesday? Not exactly. These results are about correlations, not telegrams sent to the past. But they crack our common sense arrow of time, suggesting that global consistency across the whole timeline may be more fundamental than step-by-step pushes from past to future. Think less signal to the past, more the entire path must fit together seamlessly. If reality enforces a global fit, then your future choices and experiences could be part of the constraint that shapes how the present unfolds in subtle ways, like a crossword puzzle where later answers retroactively limit what earlier blanks can be. Presentiment, the body that knows first, a proactive line of research looks for presentiment physiological changes before an emotional stimulus appears. Some experiments, controversial, replicated by some, disputed by others, report small but consistent anticipatory effects, shifts in skin conductance, heart rate variability, or pupil size a few seconds prior to unpredictable images, calm versus disturbing. If these effects are real, they hint that the body may register future information in a preconscious way, like a hair's breadth bow wave in time. Skeptics offer alternative explanations, undiscovered timing artifacts, expectancy biases, statistical flukes. That caution is healthy. Extraordinary claims deserve meticulous scrutiny. But even a modest signal, if robust, would be philosophically seismic. It would suggest that now is slightly porous, that the organism is not just reacting to reality but synchronizing with a future it's already entangled with. The brain as a prediction engine pushed to the edge. Modern neuroscience describes the brain as a predictive processor. It constantly forecasts the next frame and updates errors. Usually, that means near future expectations milliseconds ahead, not days. But in a block like Cosmos, prediction could, in principle, interlock with events further downstream, especially when emotional salience, attention, and meaning are high. Your mind might occasionally snap to a future attractor, an upcoming event that heavily constrains the path to it producing a felt certainty or a dreamlike preview. This would also explain why premonitions cluster around turning points, accidents, meetings, endings, beginnings. Big moments act like deep valleys in the landscape of possibility. Many paths run downhill into them. If your future sits like gravity, your present can feel its pull. Symbol, dream, and the language of the edge. If future memory happens, it rarely arrives as a crisp postcard. It speaks in symbol dreams, intuitions, metaphors. Why? Because the psyche translates what's beyond its current frame into images it can hold. Ancient cultures called these omens, psychoanalysis calls them compensations. Cognitive science calls them pattern priors. A unified view, these are the interfaces between your local now and the wider, already written page. So, practice attending to the language of the edge. Dream journals, track motifs that later click into place. Somatic cues, a chest tightening no, a whole body yes. Synchronicities, unlikely alignments that cluster around decision windows. You're not forcing prophecy, you're learning to read the pressure gradients in time. Ethics in a world with future echoes. If the future tugs on the present, do we still have responsibility? Yes, perhaps more than ever. In a block universe, your choices are part of the structure, but you are the corridor those choices run through. The life review stories from near-death experiences often describe a profound empathy with one's own ripple effects, as if the future self remembers backward the weight of every kindness and cruelty. Act as though your future is watching, because in a sense it is. Not as a judge, but as the you who has to live with the global fit of your timeline. Make choices that your future self won't have to forgive you for. A practical metaphysics of precognition. If you want to work with this, keep it grounded, record first, interpret later. Date stamp intuitions, dreams, review after events. Avoid retrofitting, look for clusters, one-off hits are noise-prone. Repeated motifs around the same life node are signal-like. Act lightly, let intuition inform reason, not replace it. Think of it as a second compass, not a dictator. Aim for character, not control. The point isn't to game the future, it's to meet it well. What counts as proof? Personal experience will convince you long before laboratories do. Science requires public, repeatable effects. Precognition, if real, may be fickle, contextual, emotional, meaning-laden. That doesn't make it unreal. It makes it psychological as well as physical, a phenomenon at the boundary where inner life meets outer law. We should keep our standards high and our minds open. Skepticism without cynicism, wonder without gullibility. The paradox we live inside: if old time exists, then remembering the future isn't magic, it's a side effect of being a consciousness moving through a timeless whole. You will still wake up, choose, regret, rejoice. You will still feel the weight and lightness of being. But you may also start to notice the soft footprints of tomorrow in today's dust, and that changes the art of living. Because when the future calls, the wisest thing to do is listen, then walk toward it with both eyes open. Chapter 9: The Garden of Forking Paths. There's a moment in every story where the hero must choose. Left or right, run or stay, say yes or no. We like to think those moments are singular, that the path we take is the only one that exists. But in certain corners of theoretical physics, philosophy, and even mystical literature, there is another possibility. Every choice creates a new branch of reality. This is the many worlds interpretation of existence, the idea that the universe is not a single line, but a vast, tangled garden of paths, each one sprouting from every decision, every quantum event, every divergence and possibility. In one branch, you made that phone call. In another, you didn't. In one, you took the risk. In another, you let it pass, and all those versions of you, infinite in number, continue their lives beyond your reach. The garden as a model of reality. Imagine walking through a forest where every step causes the trail to split into two. Behind you, the path isn't a straight line, it's an ever-growing network of roads, each containing a different you. This is what quantum theory suggests could be happening on a cosmic scale. And the strangest part, these alternate yous are not in the past or future. They exist now alongside you, in a vast, invisible architecture of reality. Some physicists even speculate that under rare circumstances, perhaps near black holes, during high-energy cosmic events, or through quantum entanglement, paths might intersect. Theoretically, you could cross into a branch where your life took a drastically different turn. The question is, if you met yourself from another path, would you even recognize who you had become? Chapter 9: The Garden of Forking Paths continued. In the 20th century, physicist Hugh Everett III introduced a radical idea that shook the foundations of how we think about reality, the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. It didn't just suggest that reality is stranger than we imagine, it suggested that reality is stranger than we can imagine. In Everett's view, every quantum event, every particle deciding whether to go left or right, every coin flip in the universe doesn't collapse into one outcome. It splits, creating two realities, one where the coin lands heads, another where it lands tails. The entire cosmos is doing this endlessly. You are not singular. This means you are not one continuous self moving through time, you are an ever-branching tree of possibilities. In one world, you are a writer. In another, a surgeon. In another, you never survived that accident. In another still, you never existed at all. And yet, in all of them, there is something undeniably you, a thread of identity woven through each branching line. The surreal implications: imagine a library so vast it contains every possible biography of you. Some are nearly identical to the one you know. Others are unreadable, filled with events and emotions you have never and will never experience. Now imagine you could step into one of those other books. What would it feel like to wake up in a version of your life where a single choice, a different word spoken, a slightly earlier departure, a handshake declined, had rewritten the entire story? Crossroads and convergence. Some theorists whisper about quantum bleed, rare anomalies where boundaries between branches blur. Déjà vu. The feeling of having lived a moment before. Meeting a stranger who feels unreasonably familiar. These could be echoes, collisions between paths that were never meant to touch. If that's true, then the Garden of Forking Paths isn't just a metaphor. It's the actual landscape of existence. And perhaps every so often, the hedge between two paths has a gap.